Emerging Technologies Fund to help launch new technology companies that start in local research laboratories. He is the chairman of the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and he is also a candidate for Congress from the 1st District of New York, so let's hope he gets swept into office a year from now. Please all welcome Dave Calone.
Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you Neil, thank you Corey, thank you to everyone here at LICA for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of my experience as a early stage investor. I'm thrilled today to be here because I believe that the work of the Long Island Capital Alliance and organizations like it are critically important for Long Island and for our entire country. What creates jobs and economic growth is small and growing businesses. And so it's in all of our interests to create more of these companies and to help them to succeed. That's exactly the mission of the Long Island Capital Alliance. That's also the reason why I started the Long Island Emerging Technologies Fund. The idea there was that the companies of Long Island's future are in Long Island's laboratories today. Over the last 2 years, we've been pleased to help 10 new companies be launched on Long Island based on Long Island research, including from Cold Spring Harbor, Brookhaven National Lab, Stony Brook University, and Feinstein Institute. And I know at least one or two of the companies are here this morning. Every big company started as a small company. And so we need to be creating and nurturing a lot more small companies here on Long Island and across our country. To do that, we need more entrepreneurs, more innovators, and more people who can take ideas and make them into job-creating companies. Of course, there are no employees without employers. Unfortunately, a recent Brookings Institute report found that our country is actually at a record low in terms of the amount of new companies being created. And an Inc. magazine survey determined that the #1 reason why people don't start companies is because they think they won't be able to raise the money necessary to start one and to build one. That simply is unacceptable. From Thomas Edison to the Wright brothers to Henry Ford, from Hewlett-Packard to Google to Facebook, creating something new is the American way. And it's essential that we re-embrace that ethos as the building block of our American economy and our Long Island economy, now and in the years ahead. It's more important now than ever, as our interconnected world means that we're competing every minute of every day against people from all around the planet. Now, not everyone's born to be an entrepreneur, but we must ensure that everyone who has that entrepreneurial instinct has the tools they need to pursue their dreams. And of course, not everyone can be an angel investor and not everyone can be a venture investor, but we need those who are able to do so to invest in our next generation of companies. We also, from a policy perspective, need to make it easier for all Americans to invest in early and growth stage American companies. Right now, we're dealing with out-of-date laws. For one example, take the Federal Accredited Investor Standard, which states that if you make $200,000 a year, you can invest every dollar you have in early stage companies. But if you make $199,999, you can't invest 1 penny. Of course, it's also crazy about how hard it is to invest in companies in our local area. 100 years ago, when people started having extra money to invest, they invested in their local banks, stores, other local businesses. Now, our portfolios are more likely to have mutual funds and ETFs covering Russia and Brazil and Singapore than we are to have local investments. That's why we need more intrastate regional crowdfunding platforms. And that's why I want to encourage all of you to take the step of investing in Long Island companies, like the ones who will hear presenting here today. And for those of you who are individual investors considering some of your first investments, the good news is that you don't need special training. Anyone can do it, and I am a good example. Despite the fact that I'm pretty confident I was the only 8th grader at Mount Sinai Junior High School who would take time out of recess to use the school payphone to call 1-800-CHARLES-SCHWAB to check on the price of the one share I owned in Eastman Kodak. Not the best investment over time, by the way. I didn't have any substantial business experience when I got involved in venture investing. I grew up here in Suffolk County, went off to college, law school. I was a federal prosecutor working on corporate fraud, prosecuting corporate fraud and terrorism. I was a state prosecutor working on healthcare fraud prosecutions. And then I was a lawyer at one of the big New York City firms. And I got a call from a friend who had had a lot of success starting companies. And he asked me to join him in investing in early stage private companies. This is about 8 or 9 years ago. I said to him, well, I've never put a deal like that together. I've never made an investment decision like that. And he said to me, there's only one way to change that, and that's just to do it. And he said he would help me learn the process. And so I started doing it. And for the last 9 years, it's what I've done. Start companies, build companies, invest in early stage companies on Long Island and across the country. I found that the part that I enjoy most about investing in early stage companies like the ones we'll hear about today is being part of the hands-on creative process of building that company. I co-founded a company in 2007 called Bridge Health Medical. Since its inception, I've served as the chairman of the board. Bridge Health helps companies save on surgical costs while allowing their employees to get surgery done at some of the highest quality hospitals in the area. For a few years, we had very minimal success. But about 4 years ago, we finally figured it out. We got the right product, the right markets, etc. And we now have over 50 employees, and this year we'll cross $20 million in revenue. A few months ago, Bridge Health Medical was named to Inc. magazine's list of the fastest growing companies in the country. Recently, we brought all the employees together to celebrate that fact from across the country, and as chairman, I got to talk with them about the people we'd helped, the jobs we created, the money we'd saved. Now, obviously I'm not always that involved in my companies, and certainly not all of them have been successes. But when some of your investments take you on a journey like that, from nothing to something exciting, it really does make it all worthwhile. And putting aside the success I've had with Bridge Health, I think healthcare is a really exciting place to invest. As today's companies will demonstrate, it's an area ripe for disruption and innovation, and a space where new products and processes can not just create huge savings in one of the most expensive parts of our economy, but can really improve and literally change people's lives for the better. Another lesson I've learned along the way is that when you're looking at early stage or potential early stage investments, is that the team is at least as important as the product idea. That's because it's rare that the initial product idea is the one that carries the company to success. The ability of companies to alter their development is critical. And the management team needs to be the one to decide when to change course, and has to be capable of knowing when to make that pivot. One example of that is a startup company that I invested in called Orbotics. Orbotics was a company that came through Techstars. Techstars is a 3-month program that I'm involved with that helps launch early stage companies. At the start of the program, I was impressed with the 2 young founders of Orbotics, but somewhat less impressed with their idea, which was using your phone to turn off the lights in your house and using your phone to start your car. But we made an investment because we liked the 2 founders. We made an investment when they came out of the Techstars program, and they changed their idea from controlling your lights or your phone or your car with their phone to controlling a robotic toy ball. They named their product Sphero, and they've now sold nearly 1 million of them. You can find them in stores like Apple and Target. In fact, I was in London 2 years ago, and my kids were checking out the toy floor at Harrods department store. And there, half a world away from where these guys originally had the idea to turn their lights on and off with their phone, was a huge display of Spheros. More recently, in last year, they hooked up with Disney to invent the new droid in the new Star Wars movie called BB-8. And if you've seen the movie, it's a robotic ball that rolls around, and that was actually invented by our company, Orbotics. And so now they've gone from starting a car engine to a galaxy far, far away. So you never know what your path's going to take you. One of the all-time best pivots, this company that we did not invest in, but I heard this story when I was in Chicago a couple of years ago visiting with one of the co-founders of the company. And he told me how their company was started as a way to empower coordinated social action. They named the company The Point, after Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. The idea was that one person might be willing to donate $10 to help buy mosquito nets for a village in Africa, but that wasn't enough money to actually accomplish anything. But if you get 10 people together and each of them would contribute $10 to the effort, then you'd have enough to buy a reasonable amount of mosquito nets and move forward with the project. Their company struggled, but there was a pizza place on the first floor of the office building where they were, and the owner said if they could get 10 people to agree to buy pizza at this place, they'd give each of those people a good discount. And they tried it, and it was wildly successful. And they tried it again, and they had dozens and dozens of people sign up to participate. And so they realized that this was the right product for their company. And they changed the name of the company to Groupon. And of course, now they're a multi-billion-dollar company. The final thought I'd like to share with you, though, is the importance of working with others to source and select investment opportunities. That's why I think the Long Island Capital Alliance is so important, to provide access to exciting investment opportunities, to bring together in this room a community of investors, and to coordinate once we leave this room potential investor interest. I've enjoyed working with and making joint investments with a number of great Long Island investors, including Harvey Brofman, who's here on the panel today, and Rich Foster in the back, and others here in this room. I've enjoyed working with investors, not just here on Long Island, but across the country. I've learned from them, I've piggybacked on their expertise, and I've been the beneficiary of their access to interesting investment opportunities. For me, our most profitable investment came not from a relationship I had, but because a friend of mine, David Cohen, the head of Techstars, was getting contacted a few years ago by a lot of people around the country with early company ideas. And so David put together a partnership of a bunch of those of us who were involved in the Techstars program early on to do angel investments out of some of the opportunities that he was hearing about. Shortly thereafter, a guy by the name of Ryan Graves contacted David for advice about a new company that he was going to be launching called UberCab. It was just an idea at that point, but David felt like this was an interesting one, and our partnership invested in the seed round. A year later, the company shortened its name to Uber and launched an app that's been wildly successful. And now our group's little $50,000 investment is worth, on paper at least, $300 million.
Nice.
Now, I don't know if one of the companies that Leica has selected for us to hear from this morning is going to have a 6,000x return. But who's to say that they won't? So let's listen. Thank you all.